Well, it's another beautiful, summery Thursday afternoon. Extremely hot outside, but it's a beautiful day. And once again, we're here on our favorite platform, in our favorite place. And this is Crossroads, your podcast, navigating business challenges. So, once again, welcome. And by now, you know it, David Etienne, your certified public accountant. And so we're coming to you from the Etienne Strategic Management Consulting platform. I always encourage you to, check our website, check out our various social media platforms, follow, subscribe, like, share, you do the works, and keep engaged in the conversation as we look at some of these very pertinent and relevant business issues, but not just looking at the issues, but looking at the potential solutions. So here we are on Crossroads, navigating business challenges. A couple of weeks back, I had a colleague here with me, and we had a wonderful time discussing a very important topic, and that was change and the management of change. There, then, we looked at some of the challenges and, of course, some of the ways to overcome those challenges. And I had with me discussing that very important topic, Mr. Kerry Bass. Kerry, a friend, a colleague, is the owner and CEO of Making It Reality Consulting. Making It Reality Consulting. A wide range of knowledge, a wide range of expertise. And so he had shared with us back then the whole concept and picking apart the issue of change and change management. And during that conversation, if you recall, he had teased us by mentioning the phrase, the term, societal excellence, because that is another area. As a matter of fact, I get the impression that that is Kerry's key area, that's his focus area. And so we are fortunate to once again on Crossroads have Mr. Kerry Bass with us to address this very important topic of societal excellence. So without further ado, we're bringing in Mr. Bass. And so, Kerry, my man, happy to have you here once again, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me again, David. And just wanted to correct, the name of the company is Potential to Reality Consulting, and our website is www.makingitreality.com.
Oh, I see. Well, thank you very much. Okay. Yes. Okay. That is great. Yeah. All right.
Thank you for allowing me to say that. It gives me my quick commercial.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's wonderful. And as a matter of fact, as we usually do on the podcast, is that at some point in the program, and at the end too, we provide you, our listeners, with all the necessary contact information for our guests. So thank you very much, Kerry. Well, since I had you on the program just 2 or so weeks ago, I'm very grateful to know that you could facilitate us at a short notice. In my introduction, I mentioned, and as you know, that our focus this evening is basically on what is referred to as societal excellence. Societal excellence. In several discussions that I've had with you, I hear the passion that you have for this area, and you have been doing quite a bit of work in this neck of the woods, and still more to come. So today we want to get an understanding, a broad understanding of this whole concept of societal excellence. What is the driver? What brought about the need for that focus? And later on in the program, we will certainly be looking at some of the challenges that you must face in terms of, rolling out this. So to begin with, societal excellence. What is that all about?
Well, societal excellence is a conceptual model and framework that I'm working on to be able to merge the principles of quality 5.0 and the further enhancement or extension of where industrial society is going. Matter of fact, there's a concept introduced by the Japanese Cabinet of Science and Technology in 2019 called Society 5.0. And the definition, working definition that I have incorporates that definition or aim of Society 5.0. And that societal excellence is the work of producing a human-centered society that is producing balanced economic benefit and social well-being for all stakeholders. And that is accomplished through a system by integrating cyberspace and physical space and our physical and our societal social well-beings in conjunction with enhanced information technology and a humanistic focus, philosophical focus on the purpose of the organization and the society. That's a lot of big words.
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. Well, embedded in those big words, I'm hearing two words, and generally they, in my mind, and I suppose in the minds of a number of members of the public, we see those two concepts at odds with each other: economic and social. And here where I'm going with this. One usually consider social focus to be more of, and this is just me going there, to be more of the well-being of the citizenry, more from the point of making available services, amenities, etc. for social well-being. On the economic side, I am hearing a profit focus. I'm hearing a profit focus. And quite often the concept or the thinking is that for you to be 100% profit focused, then you cannot give way to these other, as it were, welfare type considerations. So we talk about societal, aspect of the thing. It sounds to me like you're saying to the capitalist, profit is good, man, but it's not all about profit. Help me here.
That's exactly right. And the idea is really sustainability. If you want to just make money for a short period of time, then you don't need to create massive organizations and large businesses to do it. You can just focus on capitalizing things. Maybe I want to get the quickest return on the dollar that I have, and your firm doesn't not necessarily stay around to be able to produce that. But if you are thinking about your organization is not just only to produce profit, but to produce wealth, then you have to think about your firm being around for a longer period of time. And then you have to think about what are the types of things that provide wealth. Those are things that provide value to those that purchase or consume the products or services in exchange for the economic funds that are delivered in enhanced for that. So the concept of societal well-being is an extension of sustainability beyond the firm and also benefit beyond just the shareholder, but to all stakeholders.
Got you. Now, it's interesting because when we talk about stakeholders, there was a time when consumers, customers were not identified as stakeholders. You get me? We thought of stakeholders as, of course, those persons who have somehow invested in, somehow have a way of getting a return from. So in other words, companies seldom thought of the clientele, the customers, the mom and pop around, the family down the street as being an integral element or aspect of your stakeholders. I'm hearing you to say that companies in the past have pursued the profit motive and have made quote unquote short-term profits, large profits, but then they came to that place and point where they recognized that for us to be sustainable in the long term, we need now to incorporate this broader picture, this broader view. So with that said, you would need therefore to have a buy-in so that society at large is convinced that there is something in this new paradigm for me in
Yes,
order for them to cooperate with this new initiative.
you're absolutely right. And I think that concept of WIFM, what's in it for me, is really the whole core concept of advancement and economics and society overall. And that while altruism is nice, and you and I have talked, and we both share a common faith, and and ordained ministry, and that's not my job here to do conversion, but the idea is that we do things as human beings because we get benefit out of that doing it. We purchase things because it gives us a benefit. Joy provides sustainability, meets our nourishment needs. It provides value because it enables me to do other things. And so if I am then a producing value, that is the way that I can get economic returns. And one of the things that we got replete in history now, and we have these issues, I think, in business and in society now, where there are big turnovers because of the fact that organizations lost sight of the long-term nature of what they were trying to do. One example that comes to mind right away is the opioid epidemic. There was a lot of firms, and one in particular, I won't mention them, but they produced and accomplished billions of dollars by promoting and delivering opioid medications to societies. And they got the medical system to get highly engaged in promoting the delivery of these wonder pills, is what they thought, because they thought that the value that they were producing was the quick elimination of pain. And that seemed to be a reasonable value because people bought into that. And they paid billions of dollars, and these companies became rich for doing that. But what that company failed to do was to think about the long-term effect of what was happening by the addictive nature of what they were doing. And when they found out about it, they chose to ignore the truth of what they found out about. And that's one of the concepts, again, of societal excellence, is that when you know better, you should do better. Mm-hmm. So they chose to ignore that fact and continue to promote the high distribution of these drugs. Now they have been sued, and that company is going to probably lose most of the profitability that they gained because of the downside consequences of now their stakeholders are saying, what you sold me as good is actually detrimental. And therefore, I want to reverse that profitability that you got out of it because basically you cheated me.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, great, great. Now, like any new initiative, let's call it that, there are going to be challenges. And the challenges could come either from the point of execution, or it could come from the point of an absence of buy-in by the people who are the players. So let's first look at that. What are some of the challenges? Because on the face of it, the end result of such an initiative, if it is successful, is going to definitely make a significant impact, positive impact. What do you see as some of the challenges to this very commendable effort?
Well, I think the first challenge is being able to solidify the definition, and that's the things that I'm working on now, and what those core concepts are, and communicating that to both the stakeholder community at large to be able to understand that we're not just talking about altruism on the part of the firm or the society, but we're also not talking about welfare, we're talking about ownership and value production and value exchange on the part of the whole of citizenry. And so communications and further development is the first piece. The other piece, again, like I said, is actually being able to find examples. And I think that there are examples already of organizations that are basically doing this, whether they understand it and categorize it as societal excellence or not. Like you and I were mentioned before, there are firms that are approaching unheard of capital value propositions that because they are now producing values. One in particular is these information technology firms that are exceeding the $1 trillion market value, market capitalization level, because they are producing value that enables stakeholders to be able to identify and produce and deliver value and receive value in ways that are more efficient and effective than they ever have been in the past.
Large organizations will say, we have over the years spent, I won't say million, but billion, but hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars in welfare. I'm just generalizing and saying welfare, outreach, making our contribution to society. Okay, a lot of these organizations even operate, these non-profit arms, and so they consider themselves as having done a significant, they have engaged themselves significantly in terms of societal welfare through these non-profit endeavors that they undertake. Okay, they have contributed quite a bit. Am I hearing that even that act or those initiatives are not enough to put them to where they're trying to go for long-term sustainability and wealth, and growth? Are you saying that this initiative is asking more of them, or is it a matter of shifting from this welfare approach to a more inclusive approach to say, come and be a part of our broad vision, as opposed to us handing out things to you in the welfare fashion?
It needs a reframing and a different approach. There's a couple of different things. One thing that has struck me as I started toying with kind of putting this concept together was something that, and he's not often quoted, but President George W. Bush said one time. He said, "America works for owners." And when you think about that, that is absolutely correct. And the idea is that if you look at the Constitution, and the preamble to the Constitution, the reason that government exists is to be able to promote the well-being of society at large. And the way that they do that is promoting the capability of individuals to own property and be able to benefit from that property and from those businesses and provide value to society. And that the laws are created to manage the imbalance of power between an organization that doesn't follow the rules and their users, consumers, service, their other stakeholders that may suffer because of the abuses of somebody that has unequal power. Mm-hmm. So the idea then is that if you think in terms of trust fund babies, trust fund, what is the difference between a welfare recipient and a trust fund baby? And the difference is, where does the money come from? Because they don't necessarily do anything differently. A welfare recipient or a trust fund baby, they don't necessarily behave differently or provide anything differently. It's the fact that the trust fund baby is thought to be an owner of resources, owner of capital. They own the methods of production. They don't do the work of production. They own the methods of production. So in this new framework that we're talking about, we need to think in terms of massive ownership, massive capitalism. And I'm not necessarily talking about old socialism and old communism that is proven to be not deployed practically and capable of being sustained. I'm talking about that let's leverage those tools that we have been able to come up in the marketplace, like exchange traded funds and mutual funds, and marry those with concepts that are being found now, like guaranteed minimum incomes, and using sovereign funds to develop an exchange traded fund or a general societal fund that benefits the individuals of society so that they own massively a piece of the methods of production that are providing value in their lives. And so therefore they don't have to depend on the frequent fluctuations in the labor market, the changes in technology that we all own. All become owners, and therefore we reap the benefits and rewards of being owners.
Got you, got you. It may be early days in terms of conceptualizing the whole thing, but paint me a picture of this initiative in action. If I may, if paint me a picture of this initiative when it's rolled out, when it is taking, when it is happening, when the process is in progress, so to speak. Paint me a picture as to how it is likely to be executed.
I know it sounds fanciful, but it seems as though that there's a lot of futurists that are creating popular media and entertainment media nowadays too. One of my favorite newer movies and newer sequences is the Black Panther series.
Okay.
And the concept of the kingdom of Wakanda, to me, is an example of what this future economic and societal excellence looks like. Wakanda is blessed with having a natural resource that provides tremendous value to the world. But instead of the old way of where there were exploiters that came in that subdued the population and took the extracted minerals from the population and used it for their own wealth, the people of Wakanda used it for their own wealth. And so therefore the Wakandans became the owners of this value creation system that allowed them to be able to live well within their own society and then be able to deliver value to others through the delivery of products and services based on this resource that they have. I think that's the same way that it can happen today. And one of the areas that I'm looking at and thinking about trying to do is that we need to look at the African diaspora overall in the global society. And we need to think about maybe the African diaspora looking to be global owners, and those of us that are in other areas being able to leverage our knowledge and technology and resources and know-how to be able to marry it to the wealth resources in the home continent of Africa and be able to provide sustainable value so that the Pan-African community can actually be able to deliver that. And the reason why that's reasonable is by the world population estimates. By 2050, it's expected that 25% of the global population will be of African descent. So if we are going to survive as a human species, it's incumbent upon the African diaspora to do well. So we need societal excellence at a Pan-African level.
Okay. Well said. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are here on our podcast Crossroads, and we're speaking with Mr. Kerry Bass. And this evening we are looking into the whole concept and the great ideology of societal excellence. So we continue our conversation because we're recognizing that it's almost like this is the answer to the way forward. This is the answer to the way forward. So many other models have been tried, and yes, they have seen some level of success. But it would seem to us that the ultimate would be a model that incorporates us all. And so instead of owners and hand-me-downs, what we're talking about people who are mutually invested into the initiative. Kerry, two things: educating and convincing. I always speak about educating and convincing. So you may have a group of individuals who, because of a lack of knowledge, fail to do what is necessary. But once you find a way of educating them and they are receptive to the educating, then you will get some progress. On the other hand, there are those individuals who are in the know, but have taken a conscious decision that we know, but we will not go. Because as it is here and now, what we have serves us well. I'm applying that concept to our discussion this evening. I have no doubt that large corporations are in the know that part of what may be holding back long-term progress is the absence of that inclusion of all, okay? So it's not a case of us trying to school them and to show them what they do not yet know. So it boils down to convincing you guys that this is the way to go. And I think that the greatest challenge, that's what I'm thinking, that the greatest challenge will lie in that arena, convincing the haves to include all others so that we collectively become haves, and therefore we collectively move forward. So my thing therefore is that the greatest challenge would be to say to those who are in the power seats, who have the wealth base, that this is the way to go. Have you had any intervention dialogue where you come across clear, evident resistance to this concept?
Oh, you see examples of it all the time, but you also see the consequences of that too. Another example that I like to use is the fossil fuel industry. Fossil fuels, particularly petroleum, produce fantastic benefit for society overall. It allowed the mobility of energy to be able to do tremendous things that were not possible previously. Energy was able to be concentrated and moved, and even to have locomotion. For you have things like airplanes and all that sort of thing that would not exist had it not been for petroleum-based products. But what we and those petroleum producing countries reap tremendous wealth. Look at around the world today, and you see that there are a lot of countries that have petroleum wealth, even though they may not necessarily have it equitably distributed amongst their societies overall. But petroleum-based wealth has produced tremendous good for several different organizations in the United States, Saudi Arabia, some countries in Africa, some countries in the Americas that produce petroleum. They had basically that Wakanda basis system. But one of the things that we have now come to understand, we knew it for a long time, but we chose to ignore it, was the fact that burning fossil fuels has a negative impact on our climate. And so, therefore, we really needed to have started thinking about what we need to do something different than these petroleum based economic systems and energy based systems. And not only that, there's only so much petroleum that's there because once you run out of it, there's no more being created. There is, but it takes so long that we burn it up before we can have enough of us to die, enough vegetation to die and rot away to become petroleum. So it's an unsustainable environment and unsustainable feature. So now we're in this massive transition that you see the resistance of change from fossil fuels, particularly petroleum-based energy solutions, to renewable energy solutions. And you see this upshift that's going along with it. And one of the things that's unfortunate that, it's almost I wouldn't say comical, but it's almost ridiculous in the way that you look at it, that there are societies of people that have built their economic well-being on working in the coal mines. So the coal mine is even a generation back beyond the petroleum marketplace. So there are still people resisting the evolution and moving away from coal to go to solar power and wind power. Yet there's a whole intermediate step, that a whole economy that they will miss, a whole turn that they will miss because they didn't make that change even into petroleum. So resistance is real. But from the time that I was on speaking with you before, there is a model of change management, and that's what I think needs to be done at a grand societal level also. ProSci has the model that they call ADKAR, awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. That's how change happens, is that first of all, you have to make people aware that something else exists other than what you are experiencing today. And that you then need to make that desirable. They need to be able to desire what is different than what they currently have. If there's no economic value, if it costs too much, it's too painful, if you're just saying that I just have to die away, then what's the point of me wanting to make that switch? I need to have a desirable change to make it worthwhile to do it. So we have to then, for societal excellence, it needs to be desirable on the power broker side today because they want to be power brokers of tomorrow. That means that they need to share the value and produce value for those consumers of today and tomorrow. And those consumers of today and tomorrow will not be laborers, they will be owners. They will be exchanging value for value.
Great. Thank you. It go hands down. It's getting a little feedback there, but yes, hands down. It's a great concept. It's a great ideology, and like a colleague of mine always say that when you can design something, if you can design something that is devoid of direct human interaction, so it can all be computerized, then success is almost guaranteed. Once you're talking about things that are heavily dependent on the human idiosyncrasies and preferences and limitations, then yes, that is where the challenge. I can see that this is one such thing, because at the heart of it, you're speaking to a willingness of the person, a willingness of the man, of the individual. Collectively, yes, but a willingness to say, okay, we recognize that there's a better way. And as you've made it so clear, that there's a better way and we're willing to go there. Bearing in mind that some of these things are long-term. That's the other thing too. some decisions we make, you can actually see the result, the outcome, the positive outcome of it in the very short term. Now, are we talking about some long-term investment going down this road? And when I say, if we should say the powers that be decide, okay, this is the way to go, gentlemen. And so for the year 2025, we're going to kick off this grand initiative. I know it's not easy to sort of put a timeline on something like this, but realistically, do you see something like that coming to fruition, having some shape and form within a 3-year run, a 5-year run? It has to be a 20-year plan. I'm trying to get a sense of how early would individuals be able to see, okay, oh, this thing is working. Oh, this really is the way to go. Because as you had helped me to understand, as a matter of fact, when we spoke the other day on the other topic, the term you used was something fatigue. Remind me, when we're talking about change management, you mentioned about something
Change fatigue.
change fatigue. Great. It's interesting how that discussion we had is linking itself to this discussion, because once again, we're talking about a concept that is not an overnight stuff. It is an overtime thing. How likely is that change fatigue, which could be a 5, 10, 15-year run, is going to work negatively against? Because we all start out very excited. Oh yeah, this is the way to go. I can see it. And then 3 years and 5 years and 10 years. So the question I want to ask, if it's a 20-year plan, is it reasonable to say that with the correct approach within the first 3 to 5 years, one should be able to see some indication that we are on the right road to achieving what we set out to achieve?
There are frameworks, and that's where I'm going. This is not just a total jump off from something that we have not necessarily started before. There are concepts that are already in place that are foundational to be able to do this. One of them is operational excellence at a firm level, where a firm is implementing the principles of quality management. They reduce waste and they reduce production costs and reduce the cost of sales and fulfillment. That's how they produce profitability, and they produce valuable products and services in an efficient and effective way. And that is the foundations for that. So the next piece of that then gets to be what we're already starting to work with, of having to re-engineer supply chains such that we went to a overcorrection where there was too much outsourcing of supply chains, and there was this economic concept of competitive benefit, where basically a particular provider or country or whatever would be better able to produce a good or service than a production locally. Well, we found out that in times of crisis like the pandemic, that you need to have some means of production of some of those goods nearshored or your own control. So therefore, we're re-engineering our supply chains to be able to be less fragile and less dependent on a foreign delivery mechanism. Mm-hmm. So we're already moving in those areas. What we're talking about now is changes in policy and changes in focus to be able to think longer term. And there's right now in some democratic governments, they've turned it into a backlash of ESG, environmental, social, and governance promotion as a means of showing reduced risk and capability of producing value at a firm level in a global marketplace. So those concepts already exist. We just need to extend those and put in place policies that allows us to see benefit at a societal level and at the human individual level from those firms and those governments having collections of companies that operate with high levels of ESG, high levels of value, great sustainability, and being able to weather risk, such that I like this term by a called anti-fragility, where basically that we understand that there are shocks and there are unknown unknowns, but we also know how our systems work and we know the fragilities. And so we then have to build up redundancies and strengths such that when a unknown happens, we anticipated that and we are able to weather that storm and benefit by it also.
Great, 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 great. Kerry, my man. Well, I shared with my listeners that on the first introduction that I had with Kerry, getting, acquainted, I remember clearly saying that I am the big picture guy. I remember that term, he used it. I am the big picture guy. Of course,
Yeah.
I being an accountant, a certified public accountant, Kerry now is saying, no, I go big, the big picture. And it doesn't get any bigger than this because really, oh yeah, this is really something that we talk about a global impact, you see. And so, Kerry, very much appreciated. And listeners, I like to remind you that we focus on inviting people on this program who are, yes, you may say cliche, but it is true, subject matter experts, people who know what they're talking about, okay? Because what we intend is that once we're through touching on these very important topics, I know that some of our clients there will definitely want to have some one-to-one further discussion. And so we have all information for Kerry. You see at the bottom of the screen his website, number. Okay, so Kerry is a big picture man consulting firm. All right, a lot of information, a lot of resources there, and so you can always find. There it is on the screen. That's my man, Kerry, and I'm going to get the company correct this time. And it is not potential to reality. Potential. You have the number, you have the website, and therefore make your contact with Kerry, have a discussions, and get things happening. Kerry, it has been a pleasure, my brother. Thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And look forward to much more. And I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. We have covered 2 areas thus far. Take it from me, listeners. There's a lot more in that bag. There's a lot more coming from Kerry. But down the road, we'll be talking on some other pertinent and very important topic. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on another episode of our podcast, Crossroads, Navigating Business Challenges. So until next time, stay safe, work hard, be successful. David Etienne and Kerry Bass saying, have a wonderful evening and bye for now.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, Kerry.
Go to etnstrategicmc.com. Check out the latest episode of Crossroads, Navigating Business Challenges,